Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Gary. How you doing?
Doing great. Good to have you. Listen, before we get into the big NCAA Regional coming up beginning tomorrow evening here in Tuscaloosa, you have been a long-time coach in this league. I know you benefited from the vision and the plan that Mike Slive put in place for this conference and all of its teams. We saw incredible growth. Certainly softball, one of the fastest-growing sports that I've ever seen in the SEC. Mike Slive passing away yesterday at the age of 77. I'd like for you to reflect on him and his career and what he meant to you and to the Southeastern Conference and the University of Alabama.
Well, I can tell you this. He gave me a couple trophies after we either won the regular season or a tournament championship, because it seemed like every time we played, on campus sites, he was there for the championship game, and he was the one that gave the trophies away. And the one in Arkansas, I believe, was very memorable because we had about 5 or 6 kids on the all-tournament team, and he kept giving them medals and shaking their hand, and he looked at me and he goes, "Man, are you going to have the whole team?" And, when we would meet as coaches, every sport at the SEC, it's required to meet in Birmingham at the offices. We talk to everybody, the compliance people, the publicity people, everybody. And then he would always come in and sit down, and it just seemed like it was talking to your grandfather. I guess that's the best way to put it. He'd sit down and he'd kind of push his glasses down and he'd say, "Does anybody have any concerns?" And then he'd say, "What about the people that we're working with? Tell me about them." And of course they were all sitting at the table. So you really, it was just it was a good chat. And it just seemed like you were sitting down, with your grandfather, having a coffee and just talking about whatever. So he was really, really good to the sport of softball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He was a great diplomat. I got to sit down with him for an extended conversation back in 2015. And, man, that guy, he knew he knew this conference. He knew college athletics, and he will certainly be missed. No doubt about that. All right, Coach, let's jump in. The level of consistency that this program has been built on is a model really for any college sport across the country. 14th straight year to host a regional. And, in fact, you wind up getting a 12 seed here. James and I were talking, well, I think Alabama at best will be a 14, and you're a 12, so you were comfortably in. The regional begins tomorrow evening. You get Middle Tennessee at, I want to say, 8. Or 8:30, and the first game will be Oregon State and Wisconsin, so a couple of big Power 5 teams from the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. Start just with the breakdown of the regional. I know you're focused mainly right now, obviously, on Middle Tennessee, but what do you think of the field that's coming to Tuscaloosa?
Well, it's kind of neat because I know Oregon State came to a regional a long time ago, maybe 2002 or 3. They're coached by a young lady named Laura Berg, who softball people will know who that is, or should know. She's probably the greatest center fielder of all time. Played center field when USA won the first gold medal, was on several Olympic teams. I think she made 4, actually. And one of the coolest parts about her is people say that Haley McClinney is the next Laura Berg, or is the Laura Berg playing in the game right now. So it's kind of neat. They were both lefty-lefties. Just a great young lady, and she's doing good things there. And then one of their assistant coaches, Adam DeRusha, he was a manager at Florida and at LSU, and he's in his first year. So, he knows us quite well because we played them for years when he was at both schools. Middle Tennessee, it's kind of neat. We have a good relationship with them because in fall ball, probably 4 years in a row, we like to play Division I, and really it's hard to get a Division I to come here because they want to play at home in the fall. But they came down, I think, 3 straight years. And Jeff Breeden is the head coach, and he was a very, very successful high school coach right outside of Murfreesboro. And we'd play him at a doubleheader, and then we'd go over to Melon Mushroom or wherever they wanted to eat, and we would pay for their meal before they went back. So the 4th year, I said, you know what, we have a very young team. It was the current junior class's freshman year. So we actually went up to Nashville, treated it like a road trip, had a really good time up there. and they beat us in the first game, and then we came back and beat them in the second game. So he's steadily built the program. I think he won 7 games his first year, and I believe this is his 6th, and they won 39, and they're probably one of the hottest teams in the country because they absolutely had to win that tournament to get in, and they beat the number 1 seed twice. So they're very hot. And then Wisconsin, their head coach was the assistant coach at DePaul for years, and we love playing DePaul. Good friends with their coaching staff, and she's doing a nice job up at Wisconsin because to me, it was kind of a little bit of a underperforming gold mine because Madison is a great city, and it's an incredible college town, and everybody in the Midwest says that's the best place in the Big Ten. And she's doing really well there. They played great last year in a regional in Oregon. So I can't remember if they've ever come here. So it's kind of neat. It's different teams to play, different teams for our fans to see. And like you said, Pac-12, Big Ten, and then the Conference USA champion.
Absolutely. I like the field. I think, and you said something earlier this week too. I know you're excited to have it at home, but you said for you, it's about trying to win in advance, but also for these teams that are coming here to have an opportunity to experience this atmosphere. And I know around the country now there are more great atmospheres similar to Alabama, but this, in my opinion, is still the one that kind of started it all as far as the fan experience. And you want them to come here, and obviously you want to beat them, but you want them to see what they've heard about for these years, to come and experience it and see a 3,000, 4,000, plus crowd at the Rhodes House and that place rocking. It's special, not just for you and your team, but for these folks that come in here as well.
Oh, absolutely. And if you watch the videos of all the schools after they were selected and, like they have their little media thing like we did, at the very end, coaches or players, they both said, and one really neat side bonus of this is we get to play at Alabama. We get to go to the Rhodes House.
Wow.
And so, like last year, Albany, after they were done, some of the players were, I watched games from Alabama since I was 7 years old on TV and get to play at this facility was the greatest way to cap off my career. So hearing those things, we're kind of used to it. So is our fans. But when you hear it from another side, you really appreciate the atmosphere, the facility itself, the $500,000 scoreboard, all those things. And to hear other teams describe it, we're pretty lucky.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I can't wait. Let's talk about your club. You got 33 wins. I mean, you're comfortably into the region. You finished strong, like you said you wanted to, and sweeping Texas A&M was huge. Getting a win over Auburn in the SEC tournament, being tied with Florida late. So you're playing good softball, but it's been a little bit of a roller coaster this year with this team. But following the way that I do, if nothing else, from a health standpoint and from a momentum standpoint, it looks to me, and I know this is perfect timing if this is true, that your team's about as in a good a place as it's been all year long heading into the postseason. Am I correct there?
Oh, I totally believe that. We're finally a little bit healthy. Bailey, she still has a partially torn plantar fascia. That's not going away. Peyton's healed, really, and it's just like a major leaguer. If you ever ask a major leaguer, would you feel good? And you can ask Lance Cormier this. They'll all say the very first day of the season, and that's it. And, we've been practicing since September 1st, and then, it's a long season. And, our trainer, Aaron Cohen, has done a hell of a job of keeping everybody together. And one of the things she implemented this year was they had to do a cold tub at least twice a week. And I think it's helped them because it's a recovery thing, and they sit in basically from the chest down in ice cold water, and do that twice a week. And just, it's a recovery thing. And the last couple of days of practice here, you know how hot it's been. And I think everybody has done it each day just to kind of recover. But I think you're right. We are at a really good point. And, you know, everybody, you know, it's the most losses we've had, but we were the 12th seed. And, you know, like you said, there wasn't, I mean, like the Wisconsin, I think, was probably the last team in the tournament, and they were the 50th RPI. And I don't remember if you guys have seen this week's RPI, what we were, but we were probably in the 15 range. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's just really exciting for us to be in it. And for 14 straight years, you know, it's all my baseball buddies are like, are you kidding me? You know, they can't even fathom that in college baseball.
No,
because it just doesn't happen. So it's just been a fun ride, and I'm really proud of the young ladies because I told them the other day we went through our grades for the spring, and I do one-on-one meetings with everybody, and we had really good grades. We had a 3.5 team GPA. I think we had 7 4.0s. Anyway, there was a couple that were a little disappointed and in a grade or two, and I said, look, you know, the greatest predictor of success later on in life is not your grade point average, not your intelligence, not your status, not your money, not who you know, what you know. The greatest predictor of success later on in life is the ability to have grit. Can you bounce back quickly after adversity? And, you know, I told the team that as a group before practice yesterday, and I said, that's the greatest predictor. And, I kind of look around the circle right now, and every one of you have it. So if you get a C every now and then, who cares? You know, yeah, be disappointed, whatever, but you don't need the 4.0 every semester. It's now, you know, what are you going to do next fall? So, and I think this team really has that gritty mentality.
By the way, Murph, you're 16 in the RPI this week, and
okay.
It's an SEC love fest in the RPI. By the way, I want to talk to you about Osorio. Of course, you know me well enough to know I'm dangerous because I think I know more than the average fan when it comes to softball. But I'm not a coach, so I don't even look at it the way that you do. But I called the game when she struck out 21. I mean, I've watched her.
Yeah.
I know how special.
Yeah, you did a hell of a job on it.
Yeah, thanks. And it was voted the best moment in SEC softball this season. And I know what she's capable of. She took that line drive to the head against Auburn. I think it's been a battle for her to come back, but the walks, and I know that you and Coach Van Brakel-Prothro are working with her on that, but I think when I watch games, especially with the kind of stuff she has, let's say she throws a rise and it's a little flat, and somebody hits it out of the ballpark and they run around the bases and done with it. The walks, to me, let's say she walks too, and then you get they bleed, and it drains her, because then when she's got those runners on base, she's trying to be perfect. She feels the pressure. Am I onto something here, and how critical it is for her going forward to just not give these people bases and make them hit off of her? Because I feel like over 7 innings, if they've got to hit off of her, that's awfully tough to do consistently.
Oh, I know, and you're right. But all of that is easier said than done. And, obviously the first thing I always say to myself is she's not trying to walk people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and then Sunday night after we found out the draw, regional, everything, I said, I'd listened to this podcast last week, and the speaker was awesome, and he was a baseball guy, but one of his things was you're going to control the strike zone, both offensively and defensively. And that was the main theme of, he worked for the Seattle Mariners, and that's from top to bottom, Class A to Major League. You're going to control the strike zone. So the pitchers, you're going to throw strikes, not give up any freebies, and keep the ball in the strike zone, make people swing the bat. And then on the other side of it, your hitters, you're going to only swing at strikes. And if it's a 3-1 and it's 3 inches outside, you're going to take the walk, because you're on base. So I've mentioned that to the team several times, that this weekend that's what we're going to do. We're going to control the strike zone on both sides, offense and defense. And, I kind of let the pitchers have it after the Florida game in the SEC tournament, because I think it was 9 walks and 1 hit by pitch. And really the only reason we lost was They hit 2 home runs, which you said is fine. They got good hitters, but the 3 other people that were on base were all on by walks. So it's a 2-2 game if we don't walk anybody.
You and I have discussed this before. Your goal is to build what you've built here, a championship program, and to win a national championship, and you do that, and it becomes the standard. I mean, everybody wants it every year, and it's just this league's too good. There's too many good teams. Nobody wins it every year. Ever any frustration by you? Because I know you love the fans, but Tighter Insider or my show here, we get people calling in, and it's the middle of the season, and we don't even know what's going to happen, and they're can't do this, can't do that, can't. I mean, it's passion, but at the same time, sometimes it seems a little misguided. Does that bother you at all?
Well, I mean, it's just they got to remember that these are college kids that are not going to play pro softball or make a living on it, and they're gonna screw up every now and then. It's not a professional league, and I think we've spoiled them year after year after year. And like I had a email from a gentleman in town that said, I know you guys are probably frustrated, and but now is the time for fans to show support. So that's what I'm going to do. And it was a really good email, and we read it to the team that day at practice. And those things they cover up the negatives big time. Just one positive thing would get rid of about 10 negatives, and we just appreciated that very much. And I know everybody's they're fans, and they wanted it just as much as us, which is good because it could be the other way. They could care less, and they would stop coming to the games, which we don't want. Which I should have mentioned this earlier, but we set an attendance record this year for the second time in 3 years. We averaged over 3,000 fans per game on the regular season, which is the first time that's ever happened in college softball. We did it 2 years ago, and then we did it again this year, but we broke that record. So they're still coming out, which we appreciate. And, they're one of the main reasons why we're at home for 14 straight years in a regional, because I guarantee you that they look at that. And, why would you want to go to a regional where there's 200 people at a game versus 3,000?
Oh, no doubt.
It wouldn't make sense. So, we're here. We want to win it, and we want to win. What is this? I think we're 34-0 in regionals, so hopefully we'll make it to 37.
Yeah, I want to see that.
One game a day.
Finally, the league, remarkable. All 13 teams get into regionals. 9 host. Missouri didn't even make the SEC tournament, even though they hosted, but they get in. I remember when there were some trips in this conference when Alabama went to play certain teams, you just marked it up as a sweep. Now, in some cases on the road, you're saying, heck, just get one for sure. But, South Carolina, Arkansas, the way these programs have grown, as I said, I'm just looking through the RPI right now, and it's just unbelievable. Here's Auburn, 40 wins and an 18 RPI, and they don't even get to host. I mean, this conference it's great, but it's just brutal in terms of the competitiveness and the quality of the teams. Of course, that's what you want, and now it's being reflected in the postseason how good it is.
Yeah, it was really weird. The other night I turned on, it was Missouri and I think Indiana State baseball, and the two announcers, the color commentator guys said, Missouri was. Baseball was just on the verge of not making the SEC tournament. And then the next sentence was, and if they don't make Hoover, they will not make the NCAA tournament. And I thought, I wonder, because Missouri softball didn't make the tournament and they were comfortably in, and Missouri baseball had a hell of an RPI too. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear what Lance would say of why that's the case.
I'll ask him.
I mean, They put up their resume and they have like 13 top 50 wins.
If it's good enough, you should be in whether you're in the conference tournament or not, right?
Yeah, because, in softball, the explanation afterwards was the lady says, look, we don't even look at conference affiliation. It's what your team does as a whole body of work. And it doesn't matter whatever, SEC, Pac-12, Big 12, Missouri Valley, whatever. So I thought that was really interesting. because I think right now there's 10 SEC baseball teams that are projected to get in, and you know that we have 14 that play. So anyway,
I'll ask Lance about that. All right, lastly, Coach, tickets, are tickets still available? What's the process for getting them? Go ahead and give us that information.
Yep, they're going really well. It's 348 Bama, or you could do it online, rolltide.com, or you can buy them at the gate Friday night. The reason why the times are a little bit weird, but obviously it's television and everything. All 16 regionals will be either ESPN3, U2, SEC Network. But for the first time, all 16 will be televised somehow, some way, either on your smartphone or computer or whatever. So we're at 6 and 8:30, and then 1:34 and 6:30, and then Sunday the championship is at 1:30. So, again, love to have 4,000 people to show these teams what it's like to play at Alabama. And, our seniors are so grateful for the opportunity to play at home once again. I mean, Demi Turner had a funny quote in the paper the other day. She said, if I hadn't, I think I was going to throw up. I probably would have been right there with her.
Well,
but for the six seniors, I'm really, really excited for them to get to play at home again.